Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Deanna Minich. Welcome to another one of our Thought Leader Conversation series that we've been having over these past weeks of the pandemic. And so each time we try to feature experts with a different lens into the pandemic. What do they have to offer? And today, I think that you're going to find that this discussion will be very practical as it relates to a clinical practice. And so what can we do in light of COVID-19 and everything that we're experiencing, and how can we see this as an opportunity for telehealth, telemedicine? So our guest today is Dr. Jaclyn Chasse Smeaton. There she is. And let me just read you a little bit about her background, which is I've known her for years in terms of all of the wonderful things that she's been doing with her naturopathic background, with nutraceuticals, with advising other naturopathic physicians. So she's very passionate about applying her clinical knowledge, her strong communication skills, her leadership skills to advance the fields of nutrition. She is a sought-after writer for both peer-reviewed journals and lay publications, and the way that I've seen her is that she and I have been speakers at various conferences. This is where I usually see her. She has a very integrated background that includes clinical practice, which we're going to tap into, laboratory sciences, extensive teaching, and strategic leadership. She currently works for Emerson Ecologics, which many of you probably are aware of. It's the largest distributor of dietary supplements to healthcare professionals, and she provides the oversight of the medical education and quality team. So welcome, Jaclyn. Good to have you here.
It's so great to be here.
Yeah, it is really lovely. And, I'm curious, I haven't talked with you in months, maybe a year. So I'm kind of curious, how has this pandemic affected your personal life? How have things changed for you?
What an interesting place to start. Well, we have four. I remarried recently last December, and so I have 7 children in total. I have 4 biological children and then 3 stepchildren. The stepchildren don't live here full time, but we're here hunkered at home with 4 kids, ranging in ages between 1 and 11. So they have very different needs. 2 are in school. So it's been a little bit hectic. And to make matters worse, we just moved into this gorgeous property, but the house needs a lot of work. And so it's only a 3-bedroom house. So it's actually kind of comical, and we will always look back on this time as a very special time for family connection and a lot of laughs.
Wow, 2020 is such a pivotal year, and it just continues to unfold.
Yes.
So you've got a number of things that are happening. So how do you keep it all together? How do you oversee medical education and quality at Emerson? Have, your clinical scope? How do you do this in light of having 4 kids? Everybody's at home. You just moved, and things are a bit chaotic.
Well, I think the most important thing to reflect on, and our profession, the people who are drawn to integrative medicine, in my experience, I don't know if this is the same for you, but we all are a little bit of a black sheep, and maybe we push really hard and we're really big perfectionists. We want to do things right. And right now is a time that for me presses all of those buttons, because I'm not able to be, the worker I want to be, the mom I want to be, really juggling all those things. So I've had to really be patient with myself and really reprioritize. I let go of some things that I said, okay, this can either wait or now's not the right time. And so I've had to let go of some things and really focus on the priorities that I have. And those have shifted now. And thankfully with Emerson, they are so great to all of us, but they've been exceptionally great to me, being able to work from home and juggle being a mom. So I'm really grateful to them, because they really recognize that this is not a work from home situation. Sorry about that. Are you with me again? So work from home.
I am. Sorry. There was a freezing up moment there, but you're back. And so, so you were saying about Emerson, just your role there. And so things have shifted. And so it seems like you're accommodating that in some.
Yeah, it's gone okay. There's a lot of people in really tough situations, and we're blessed to not be faced with that. We have, struggles and problems, but they're the best kind that we could possibly have right now.
Well, let me get your take too. Being a naturopathic physician for several years, you've been in the field a long time. And one of the things I think that I see, even though this is a time of crisis and tragedy and great suffering, there's also another side to this, which is an area of opportunity in the way of educating people about nutrition, about lifestyle. And so I'm curious, with your role at Emerson and being in the realm of dietary supplements, what do you see in the way of, have there been any changes? Are there certain supplements that have sold out, or are people buying different things? maybe just to talk just at the purely kind of the surface level, and then we'll move more into the different clinical practice elements.
Sure. I mean, I think that absolutely there's been huge changes, and I think a lot of this is going to last. I think we will have what I'm calling like a post-COVID-19 era of adjustment, but I think it's brought in incredible interest in integrative medicine and wellness. The average consumer that may not have been motivated enough to take care of themselves, to support their immune system, they're interested now, and we have their attention. And like you said, there's tremendous opportunity in that for practitioners. Unfortunately, I see a lot of practitioners who feel very paralyzed, but the fact of the matter is we are the group that has the most actionable steps for the average person to take right now. And so there's so much positive things we can do. So, I've loved seeing the fact that we've sold out of products, because it means practitioners are stepping up and getting those to people who need them.
Absolutely. For the practitioners who are, just not as finessed in their online practice, what are some of the pain points that you're seeing from them? Like, what are some of the things to address, and what can work for them? Being that you've been in the field a long time, maybe you can help with some of those tips.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most profound experience I see other practitioners having is a feeling of overwhelm and paralysis. Not even knowing where to start. And I was actually talking with another kind of integrative business coach, and he brought up the fact that in his experience, his clients who have the best communication systems in place, the best websites, they're not struggling. They're not seeing a big change in their patient volume. However, a lot of us, especially small business owners, we don't have the capacity to have robust marketing, robust website, maintaining an email list, and all of those things. Like, we're seeing that gap now, right? Because, I think people just don't know what to do. There's a matter of whether or not to stay open, or how to transition to virtual, which a lot of people, it's like this huge hurdle and a big fear point. It's not that hard, I'll tell you that much. People might be home with their kids and figuring out, how am I going to make time for patients? And then on top of that, we have all these new regulations in place for healthcare practitioners who want to leave their doors open about how to be safe and how to make sure patients are safe. So there's quite a lot happening right now. But I think the biggest piece, and I'd love to know what you think about this, is mindset. I think there's almost a mindset of paralysis right now. People not really sure what to do or how to move through it.
Well, one of my mantras that has come out of this COVID-19 experience is, I am open to possibilities. I am open to possibility. If I can think in that expansive mindset, then I'm open to any and all things that come my way, and seeing like, what is the potential, right? So even if we don't have a CRM, we don't have a robust website, what are the small things? I must say, I've had an uptick. I've had more people, in fact, almost a deluge, to the point that I've asked people, I've had to refer out, because it just feels like there's so much coming now. And so maybe we go through some of the basic essentials. So yes to mindset, absolutely. Yeah. Being expansive and open. And but what are some of the baby steps? So let's just say that somebody can't afford a $500 a month CRM, or they can't afford a web designer right now. How can they use Facebook or social media? What are some other ways? Can they use Zoom and simply have these calls now? So what are some basics that can be in place without a lot of funds?
Yeah, so actually the Department of Health and Human Services months ago put out a notice that they will not be pursuing practitioners who use non-HIPAA compliant communication methods right now, because for patients to continue to see their practitioners. So that's the first thing, is to utilize whatever you have. Yeah, don't let the intimidation of going virtual be a barrier for you. If you've ever made a phone call, that's a good place to start. If you've ever done, FaceTime or Skype, utilize those tools. And if you want to do HIPAA compliant platforms, there are a lot of free versions out there that you can get. I'll share with you a link to one of the Emerson blogs that we put out there that just features all the different virtual engagement platforms that are HIPAA compliant. Most of them are free. And so it's as easy as placing a phone call. It's not complicated. You don't need to get an EHR, get a CRM. So I think start with the communication method. And I think the other small tip that everyone can do is reach out to all of your patients and clients. That's the first and foremost thing. It makes me think about, like, I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've realized the businesses that I engage with as a customer, how they've all responded to COVID. And I'll give you a couple examples. My gym basically closed their doors and then sent an email saying, we're going to continue to collect your fee. And then when we reopen, we look forward to seeing you. And we'll accept your fee as a donation, right? And I thought, well, I'm getting absolutely nothing out of value from paying that money right now. And, we're not in a position where we have all this extra money. Like, I canceled my gym membership. On the flip side, my children belong to a Taekwondo studio who also had to close their doors. And within a week, they went online and said, we're going to try virtual practices. They put a Zoom up. They had no idea how it was going to go. And there were some lessons learned and some improvements over time. But not only did they continue the twice-a-week lessons, they did a daily power up that they added, which is an extra free 20-minute Zoom once a day for the kids to all learn a new skill and technique. And I think to myself, like, that's a business that's working hard to keep their customers happy. And I want to be that kind of business. So I think now is the time to step it up. And if you don't have a lot of services you can offer, you can still pick up the phone and reach out to each patient. Even if you have 100 patients, divide them up between your staff, place a phone call, ask how they're doing, ask what they need. And the practitioners that have done this have actually been getting a lot of new visits booked as well. So it is a great way to get those patients back in the door.
Yeah, and that such great tips, and I love the example of the gym and the Taekwondo studio. And I do feel like this is a time where people don't know who to trust. Where do they spend their time? They're being inundated with webinars and information. And so to have a value add, to have a tool, like, I've just been, somebody had raised in my particular community, Deanna, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Can you put together something for me on that? So it's like, that was just great fuel for thinking about, like, okay, let me create a food mood thing, a tracker, right? And so, and it's easy for us to do that in some ways, like just to put something together, then people can use it. And so things that are value add, I think this is the time to go with free whenever we can to really help people. And but then there's another side to that too, where practitioners are struggling financially, right? Like, how much of their free time do they put out in service to their clients or patients? Mm-hmm. And then also, how do they stay afloat? How do they survive within let's just say that they're just a solo practitioner without a team that can make those phone calls.
Right. So I think there's opportunities there too. And I mean, you bring up such a really important point. And I think, when you listen to your clients and your patients, and they're asking you questions, they're really helping you by doing that, because they're helping you identify a need that probably more of them have, and you capitalize on that, which is great. You were able to say, if one person has this question, a lot of other people probably do or have this need, and you can create something around that. And I think that's the right approach to take. I think one key strategy right now is flexibility, right? And my practice is fertility based. And so the fertility environment has shut down with COVID. Things are starting to open back up again. But a lot of my clients are not really in their fertility cycles right now. But there's a lot they can do at home in the meantime, and that's where my content has been. And there are still people with other needs. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're always looking out for what people's needs are. And your top goal right now should be keeping your customers engaged with you, your patients and clients engaged with you. And it might not be in the way that you are accustomed to doing it, but if you get creative and you listen and you ask about what they need, I bet a lot of people right now would love an immune support meal plan. They would love recommendations on what they can eat to boost their immune system, how to stay well. There's probably a lot of things they wish they had. And the other thing that I think is super important for our group right now is to be a note of positivity culturally, because there's so much fear right now. I don't watch the news that much. I read my news, so I'm more likely to read a NPR or BBC daily digest. But we have turned on the news, and a lot of people watch the news, and it's overwhelming. It doesn't take long for that negative messaging to become overwhelming and to really make you even more afraid. So how can you counter that? How can you provide hope and provide an opportunity to take action? What are the things that you could say to your patients that could help them take a level of engagement for themselves and do better?
I love that. That's really a beautiful idea, because I think that about 7 or 8 weeks ago, when lockdown started to happen in various states, there was a lot of fear. And even myself, I mean, all of my travel was canceled, all of my seminars. And then I was watching the news and I could feel it. And then I thought, and I was telling my husband, I've been telling him repeatedly, he watches the news, he's in tune more politically. I'm not. And I said, Mark, I just feel like a happier person when it's out of my locus of control. It feels like I'd rather stay in my happy place, be informed, but to just like you said, certain sound bites that you can just get the information and then move on from there. So how do we stay positive? Because that is part of the element of service. And there's so much that's happening right now. You're getting a lot of polarization with people's takes on this whole pandemic. So it's like, how do we stay in that place of being present, right? And just focusing on our health.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I think the other piece that I see a lot of practitioners have as roadblocks is that mindset of, well, I don't know how to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
People think, oh, I could make an immune support program, but I don't know how to build a program. I don't know how to do the technology of an online course, but you can just keep it simple. I mean, I think that we at Emerson use what's called an agile philosophy when it comes to technology development, which is that you never expect to get it perfect the first time through. As long as you're making continuous improvement, that's what we're after, right? It's about moving quickly, being able to pivot and respond, and then updating and updating and updating over time. And I think that's the approach we should take too, right? I think that, for example, if you wanted to make a program that you could promote for extra revenue, maybe that would be a simple PDF, right? Anyone could make a Word document or a PowerPoint document and turn it into a PDF with information and pair it with product and maybe a 15-minute consult. And you can send it out just in a simple email to people. I have this available, whether you're doing it free or it's paid. That might be iteration one. And I'll tell you what, your patients are probably going to be grateful to hear from you. They're not going to be criticizing the format that it came through. But that's a roadblock I have a lot of the time. It's that perfection getting in the way of good and done. And so it's something that I encourage people to think through. Like, this is a great start, rather than feeling like, it has to be perfect the way that somebody else might do it who has a whole team of experts.
Jaclyn, that is so good. You're right. To really backseat perfection and to get something out there to help people. One of the things, as you were talking about fertility, so one of the things that marketers will tell us is that you need to create a niche. Like, what are you known for specifically? Some people think of me with the rainbow. People think of you with fertility. So then it's almost like, let's put our efforts into some particular area of focus. So then when you say fertility, my mind goes into, well, what is the crosstalk between fertility and the immune system? Is this an opportunity for me to anchor into the immune system through my marketing platform of fertility? And so to really, even though it might seem like, oh wow, but my focus is brain health, or oh, my focus is sleep, or there's always a way to connect it. I mean, the immune system is, as you know, and maybe you want to talk to this, is so widespread, and we can really anchor in our positioning and create that positioning through the immune system and that crosstalk.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you think about immune reaction and triggering inflammation in the body, and overlaying with spring allergy season, which makes things worse for people who are allergy sufferers, and chronic stress of this situation. Because certainly living through a pandemic, whether it's worry and anxiety about an illness, or whether it's having to juggle a lot more than you have in the past, all of those things affect digestion, fertility and reproductive health, mood. So you're right, whatever niche you're in, there is definitely, I think that's a great point, a great opportunity to kind of pull those things together and show why this current situation is really relevant still for that particular niche.
Yeah. And what are the budding demographics during this time that need attention? I think of the elderly. I think of, I even saw something circulating for pregnant women. What are the nutrient needs when you're going through COVID? Are they increased? What can you do in the way of supplementation? That's an opportunity, because everybody's thinking about enhancing supplementation, like vitamin C, vitamin D. So it's almost like, what are the pain points in terms of demographics? Are there certain people that need a little bit more immune attention? What about the people with cardiovascular disease, people with lung, like you mentioned, with seasonal? That's brilliant, because there was even an article about pollen. Should we be outside exercising, being that we have the outdoor time, but what about the inflammation that might incur? It's the healthy balance of it all. But there are these intersections that I think from a people and a position standpoint could be very helpful for people and for practitioners to combine.
I agree. I mean, anyone who's watching, like, you're an expert in this field and your voice is really needed. So I would just say, don't be afraid to get out there. Don't be afraid to get out there any way that you can, really.
Even doing these Facebook Lives, I mean, jumping on, I mean, I had a colleague of mine, he said, can you jump on and just do a quick, and it was very impromptu. I mean, I had sweatpants on and it was like no frills. I think people just want raw, relatable, authentic conversations. Like, they're not into the polished, right? Like, just give me the information. Who do I trust? Just be real with me. And I think, back to your thing about perfection, we don't need to be all perfectly buttoned up and polished. It's like, just put yourself out there. Maybe this is your time as a practitioner to really start that and take those first steps out there.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, there's great opportunity there and a great opportunity to do it in sweatpants, because that's what everybody It's probably the only time you can start to build a marketing platform based on your sweatsuits and stuff like that. But I think you're right. It can be really simple and use what you're comfortable with. Like, people are on Instagram. Instagram lives are very easy to do. They're uncut. They don't need editing. And they actually get you bumped up in Instagram's algorithm. So, I would say just pick one thing and be consistent with it is really the best technique from a marketing perspective, rather than trying to take on Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok now, Instagram, and then only being sporadic. You're going to have better success if you focus in one place. And I think when it comes to tools, like, the other piece I would say that I see so many practitioners miss is, what's the point of all that social media? It really should be driving your business and not just for fun and for engagement. And so, like, my top tools, like, if you don't have an email list right now, get one set up. Like, use a MailChimp that's free, or Aweber. There's so many Constant Contact. There's so many tools out there that offer freebies. And whatever content you're doing, drive people to sign up for that list. This is the time to start, collecting people if you're not doing that already. If you're in social media and you're not pulling people into your own sphere, it can be kind of a waste of time.
Absolutely. And in fact, my husband is an acupuncturist, and so he's not a social media guy. Like, he's not out there putting posts on his business page. And I said, this is the time. You don't have as many patients now on a day-to-day. So, like, feed your social media, be in contact with all of your patients, right? Just like what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I remember, I just do social media in a very casual way. Like, one of the most...
Your social media is like one of my very favorite to follow, because it's beautiful and helpful. I mean, you're really one of my favorites to follow.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you. I was just going to mention that one of the things that I did was I took a picture of all my supplements and I said, here's what I'm equipped with. Or, like, I took a picture of what's in my refrigerator. It's like, hey, I went to the grocery store. Like, this stuff doesn't have to be, like, beautiful, like, just raw. Like, hey, I went to the grocery store. Here's what I just bought. And there's still a lot of produce there. And isn't that interesting?
Yeah. One of my very favorite things, Dr. Elena Rumel, she's a naturopathic doctor who is like a doctor mom. She does pediatrics. My favorite thing she does is every Monday she does Meal Prep Monday, and she films herself and shows everybody what she's making as she kind of preps meals for the week. She's got 2 young kids, and it's like the most simple content, but I love it. I love her recipe ideas. I love hearing from her. But you're right, it can be really simple things. People always want to know what supplements you take, so that's a great place to start too.
Well, what about you? I mean, you've been in the world of supplements forever, right? And so then they have all these questions. And I think the only thing we have to be cognizant of as practitioners is that we're not giving recommendations, right? When people are asking about amounts, or, to always deflect back to saying that this is for educational reasons. It's for information. You need to work with a practitioner. So there has to be a line of being conscientious about how much information we put out, because just because I take X amount of vitamin D doesn't mean that, and that's what we talk about at the ANA, right? Personalized nutrition. And that is so important. So not to forget that in our communication.
Yeah, the other piece I'd add, if you're using social media, is to be really cautious of how you talk about supplements and COVID. There have been practitioners that have gotten in trouble with the FDA and FTC, clinics and practitioners, because they're making claims that you can prevent COVID or treat COVID using supplements. And so I always also recommend, if you're going to talk about supplements and talk about COVID, you can do it by saying, right now I'm really focused on keeping my immune system healthy because of COVID. Here's what I take, but you don't want to make claims that you can prevent or treat COVID. And I would explicitly say that, I am not saying that these could be used to prevent or treat COVID, but here's what I use to support my immune system, just as an added layer of kind of liability protection.
That's an excellent point, actually, to call that out even more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I do see some people making, very extrapolated claims, and we haven't had a lot of information on COVID. There are a lot of papers postulating what might be good. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's a word of caution and definitely needs to be heard by lots of different health professionals. And many of them are already aware of it, but we just need that reminder every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Jaclyn, any final comments as we come to a close here? This has been so great to catch up with you.
I mean, I don't think so. I think just leaving people with, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, and you're feeling like, well, gosh, no one has the money to pay for what I do right now, or no one's looking for what I do right now. You've really got to move out of that place of overwhelm and commit yourself, like that Taekwondo studio, to saying, what can I do to like make my business irresistible to my customers? And you might need to level up. Like, this is a time that's going to push us to be better, do better, clean up our systems, start sending emails regularly. But ultimately, like, I think this is, like you positioned it initially, a big opportunity for us to level up our businesses. And, we have got more time at home to work on the business versus in the business, which most practitioners get caught up in. So now's the time to look back and say, what's not working? Where have my problems come from? Is it my mindset thinking my patients don't really want me right now? Is it that I don't have the tools I need to communicate with them? What have been your barriers, and work to correct that? And so this is a really good time for that kind of reflection to see what your weaknesses are as a business and work to shore those up.
I love it. Thank you. And thank you for emphasizing the positivity and really focusing on mindset, because truly, if we have thoughts about something, that's going to prime our behaviors and our actions. So starting with our mindset, again, I am open to possibilities, whatever those are. And so I go with my feeling, like, how does that possibility feel to me? Does it feel like, oh yeah, I want to do that? Or is it not so much? And I think we all know. And so it's really good. Thank you for leaving us on a message of hope that there are small things that we can do, even if they don't feel perfect and significant. In some way they are. They're building a critical mass as we go.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chasse Smeaton. And I just want to say that the ANA is a professional home for the science and the practice of personalized nutrition. If you're enjoying this, you can go to the website, theana.org, where you can learn about membership. You can see all of these expert interviews, and they're so different. In talking with you today, Jaclyn, just last week we had we had somebody talking about biohacking their data as they move through COVID. I mean, it's all so different. So you're going to get like a kaleidoscope. These are all such great interviews. So I want to thank the ANA. It's really a privilege to be connected to them. And I want to thank the team behind the scenes, and we'll see you for the next one. Take care, everybody.